Hi everyone. So in last week's performance discussion that we had, we discussed about highlighting solutions, and one of the things we discussed is whether WASM can help us here. So what I thought is I'll go ahead and POC some WASM solutions that potentially could help us do syntax highlighting and see whether those help in performance. So I'm comparing this to the baseline of using Highlight.js. So Highlight.js is what we use today, I believe, which is doing the syntax highlighting. I compared it to using two libraries. So one is Chroma, which is a syntax highlighter in Go. And again, this is a pretty fast library that does syntax highlighting and converts it to HTML or unsigned text, etc. in Go. And I also compared it to Syntect, which is again a fast syntax highlighting library written in Rust. So the idea was to compile both of these things into WASM, move it to the client side, and see whether those would lead to performance improvements. So again, just showing you what I've done for the POC is I'm running a simple web server. I've got two build targets, which is for Go and for Rust. I'm building both. So for Go, I'm using standard Go builder instead of tiny Go, and I'm using the architecture of WASM to compile it to JavaScript WASM instead of WASI. And then I'm also using WASM pack to be able to do the same thing for Rust. Right? And if you see the Go code and the Rust code, so the Go code is really simple. All I'm doing is really exposing this highlight function to JavaScript, which basically calls that Chroma library, which I mentioned. And all it does, it takes this input and converts it to HTML and syntax highlights it. Same for Rust. So for Rust, I'm using that Syntect library, which what it's doing is it's again it's just taking a string, syntax highlighting it, and exposing that highlight function to the browser, right? And of course I'm comparing it to my baseline, which is basically Highlight.js, which is using highlight, which is just using standard Highlight.js solution, which is this one here, which basically is just using HL.js to highlight the code. Luckily, all these functions are synchronous, so it is easy to sort of compare performance. So all I was doing is calculating the start time and end time. And if you see the code, which I'll share a link to, all of them are very, very similar. Okay, so showing you the results now. You can compile it with Make very easily and run this on your own machine if you wanted to. So I'm going to go to first solution, which is the, let me just run the solution first. This is compiling all the options and it's running the server. So I go ahead and run the server. I'll show you the Go highlight solution first. So this is, not the Go highlight solution. Let me go back. Let me show you plain JavaScript here. And so if you see, if I do inspect here, on the console, I'm writing how long it takes. So this roughly took 210 milliseconds. It takes roughly 200 milliseconds in plain JavaScript using Highlight.js. If I go to the same solution and I go to Go highlight, this is the Go solution. You'll see it's much slower. So it uses the Go library, which is Chroma. But it is under WASM compilation, taking almost 5,000 milliseconds or 4,800 milliseconds on average. You'll also see the source here, so it's actually using the hl.wasm file that I was compiling using Go. And so that's what it's using for its processing. Now, if I go to the Rust solution as well, you could see that the Rust solution also takes around 2,800 milliseconds or so. Seems to be taking longer here. One second. I think I made a mistake. I was trying to clean up the code here. Just a second. Apologies for this. And just recompile. now I can just refresh, and hopefully this time it'll work. You see the call took roughly 2,900 milliseconds or so, and this is using that Syntect library from Rust. So though Rust is faster than Go, it seems it's still not fast enough as pure JavaScript. Thank you.